So one of my viewers, Tao Chi Don, commented, "Is desire not the root of suffering?" And I agree with that statement. The desire is suffering. And in Buddhism, one of the main principles is that to desire is to inevitably suffer. And the reason why we inevitably suffer when we have desires is because things are always constantly changing. Things are always in flux. There's nothing that stays constant. I always say that change is the only constant in life. That sounds paradoxical, but it's true. Change is the only constant in life. So when we have a loved one and that person dies, then we suffer. When we have a job and lose it, then we suffer. When we have a pile of money and lose it, then we suffer. When we have health and then we have sickness, we suffer, right? But we're always going to have change in life, always. The change is the only constant in life, and everything is in flux. And so in Buddhism, they says when things are always in flux and things are always changing, you're always going to inevitably suffer, because often change does not make us feel comfortable. We don't like change. I know some parents who, when their kids go off to college, they suffer. It's like they have this empty nest, and there's a tremendous amount of suffer that they feel when their children leave their nest. But the children must inevitably leave the nest, right? So change means to suffer. However, God or the Creator or the divine energies of the universe, however you want to label it, created us with desires. So I believe that having desires is absolutely natural to the truth of who we are. And so when we demonize it, what we're doing is we're creating resistant energy. We're not living in the flow of who we are. We're not living in the flow of this universe. And therefore, those manifestations that we desire really do not come into our experience, because we're not living in the flow. We're creating this resistant energy by demonizing our desires. So I say the root of our suffering is not really that we have desires, but that we are not allowing our desires to flow into our experience because of our resistant energy about them. So I always say that we are a non-physical energy soul that comes into this physical form to have life experiences for the expansion of our soul. So if God or our Creator or this divine universe didn't want us to have physical experiences, then we would just stay in the non-physical realm. We would just stay here. We wouldn't come into this physical form, right? I mean, if it was meant to be that we would just stay eternally as a soul, which we are, then we wouldn't have to come into this physical experiences. So the purpose of coming into this physical form is to have all of these physical experiences in order to learn lessons for the expansion of the soul. And having desire is part of that physical experience, because each one of us has a unique soul's path. So each one of us has a different desire. So somebody may have a desire to be a doctor. Somebody may have a desire to be an astronaut. Somebody may have a desire to be a race car driver, right? And so having these desires is natural, part and parcel of this physical experience that our soul has come into being. And so we make money, we use money as a tool in order to fulfill these desires on our soul's path, right? Money is just a tool. So having this physical experience is really part and parcel of our journey, of our soul's journey to expansion and growth. And that desire is what makes us unique, what makes our soul's path unique, right? Because we all desire different things. And so where I say that we truly suffer is not that we have those desires because it's natural to have it. And when we resist the desires, then that's unnatural, because we're never going to be able to remove our desires, right? You're never going to not have a desire for something. I desire chocolate cake over vanilla cake, right? I desire to be an engineer over a teacher. You're never not going to have those desires, right? So when we judge it, when we say it's evil or demonize it, we're creating resistant energy for ourselves. And so I've shown you this chart before of how we put up this resistant energy and then those desires don't manifest, and that's what creates suffering. We're like this man right here standing on this boat having desires, right? Like, for instance, this man wants $2 million in his bank. That's his desire. And the universe, in its infinite wisdom, infinite power, is able to provide all of the cooperative components for that desire to manifest. He's trying to introduce him to maybe a new investor, a new business partner, a new idea. Right here, the universe is trying to bring all of those cooperative components to this man. But this man is demonizing himself. He's creating resistant energy about his desires. And so he's put up this dam. And this dam is not allowing him to receive those cooperative components to flow into his experience for his desire to manifest, because he's got doubt energy. He thinks he's not worthy of the $2 million. Whatever the resistant energy is creating that dam. So he's inevitably going to hold these desires, right? There's desires that you have in your life that you've never removed, that you've never eradicated, right? You've always held those desires. And there are desires that we've had maybe for a whole lifetime that haven't manifested. And it's because we haven't allowed those desires into our experience by putting up this dam and creating that resistant energy. And so when those desires haven't been met, that is when we create the suffering. And the suffering is really created by our own self. It's because we've put up our own wall and dam. And so once we get rid of this dam, we break this dam down, then we're allowing the flow of our desires to manifest into our life. So for me, the root cause of all suffering is not the desire in and of itself. It's because we haven't allowed those desires to flow into our experience. So what I often find in our world is that when we have a desire and it's not manifested, then we like to judge other people that may have things. And then we call it being material. And people who are material are absolutely evil. And I believe that that really comes from a space of not having something manifested in your own experience, which is just a projection of your own lack, of your own desires not being manifested. So when we judge others of their materialism, I believe we're really judging ourselves of our own lack in our own life. That's what I truly believe. Because really, the universe in its infinite wisdom, infinite power, does not make any judgments. So when we have materialism and we say it hurts the environment, and I agree that when we create a certain material world that we are hurting our environment, we judge that as human beings. We judge that as bad, as evil, that we're destroying our planet. And I understand that because I have that perspective too, to a certain extent. However, the universe never judges that. The universe doesn't judge that we're destroying our planet. Humans are the only ones judging that. The universe, in its higher consciousness level, it has a much bigger picture than the humans. In the larger picture, in the higher consciousness level, there is no judgment by the universe because everything has a higher purpose and calling. Everything is divinely ordered, even if you think it's bad, because it's the yin and yang. You can't have the light without the dark. You can't have the good without the bad. There's a higher divine order to everything that's going on. So what we may perceive the materialism as evil or as bad, the universe does not judge. Because the universe is forever expanding and evolving, and part and parcel of that evolution is what the humans do to our own planet. I truly believe that. The universe is not judging because it's in its higher consciousness level. When you reach this higher consciousness, there's no judgment. That's why the Buddha, when he meditated for many years and he became so still and he reached enlightenment, that moment he said the entire universe was perfect. The Buddha said the entire universe was perfection. He didn't judge that we have bad people on our planet. He didn't judge that we're ruining our environment. He didn't judge that we have wars, right? Because when you reach that higher consciousness, you see a much bigger picture. It's a much bigger picture than we can ever see in this lower consciousness. See, most of us really are operating based on a lower consciousness level. And when we operate on this level, there's always going to be judgment, good or bad. There's always going to be the unexplainable randomness. When something bad happens to us, we say it's random because we can't explain it. Because in this lower consciousness level, we can't see the big picture of the divine universe. We can't see it. So when things happen that are bad, we say it's unexplainable randomness. But there's nothing random about this universe. We also judge and we say things are unfair, it's unbalanced, it's chaotic. We feel the chaos, the unbalance. We feel that we're destroying this planet and that, how is the next generation going to survive this? So those are judgments. And yes, those are true statements. Yes, we have environmental issues and concerns, and I agree with them. But the universe doesn't really judge that. Because in the higher consciousness level, it all works out. It's all the yin and yang. It's the yin and yang balance. So when we judge our desires, we're really operating based on this lower consciousness level. When we say that materialism is bad or evil, it's really at this level, because in the higher consciousness level of the divine universe, it makes no judgment. It's just yin and yang. So when we judge our desires and materialism being evil, we're really operating based on this lower consciousness level. Because when you reach the higher consciousness like the Buddha, there is no judgment of even materialism or desires. And like I said, I truly believe that the root cause of our suffering is that we do not allow the flow of our desires into our experience. So while Tao Chi Dan and Buddhism is correct that desire causes suffering, I truly believe that the root cause of our suffering is that we do not allow our desires to flow into our experience. So if you have a story about desires and suffering and you want to share your comments and feedback, please do so. Leave a comment below, because your feedback, your opinions, suggestions, comments, and advice really help me and my community at large. And if you like this video, please make sure to share it and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to visit all of my spiritual and holistic living tips, just go to my website at yinandyangliving.com. Namaste.